going on, guys? Welcome back to another Game Time Discussions. I'm Emery Cuzzy. I'm sitting here with Dustin Zimmerman, and we are going to talk about the Senior Bowl preview, kind of go over some of the guys that really matter and that we're going to watch. I'm really excited because it's draft season, and I keep telling y'all this is my favorite time of the year. I've already started breaking down players. I've already started looking at their statistics, and then, of course, trying to compare it to film because film and statistics are very different, but they kind of paint a little bit of a picture. And we're going to talk about the guys that are going to be at the Senior Bowl practicing. Some of them actually don't finish the week because they do so well on the first practice. They don't need a practice too, and throughout the week. But we did see a lot of guys rise last year. Your Braden Fisks, your Darius Robinsons. Braden Fisk has 8.5 sacks this year, and he looks like a great pick at 39 or whatever he was for the Rams. So it's really exciting. It's one of my favorite times of the year, and I can't wait to watch the Senior Bowl itself. So, yeah.
I like it that it's different from the Pro Bowl. A lot of guys, they're still trying to prove something versus Pro Bowl is even now. I don't think they even tackle anymore, right?
No, it's 7-on-7. It's not even they don't even wrap up. They don't have pads on. It's
Pro Bowl.
No, it's literally no pads anymore.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think they did that 2 years ago.
I don't remember when it was. I knew they greatly decreased it
because you don't watch the Pro Bowl like everybody else.
I watched the dodgeball.
Okay, fair, but the Pro Bowl is not voted on by coaches and players. It's voted on by fans, which is something that I disagree with completely because you should earn your spot. Of course, you can be a big icon. Odell Beckham could be voted to the Pro Bowl right now because he is such a big icon.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But it's not necessarily the guy that deserves it.
Earned it.
Yeah, so I'd rather the all pros get to go to the Pro Bowl instead of just some. And you can always have backups. I mean, they do it already with the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl has two teams. Those guys obviously are on the best two teams in the league, so they have people that would be at the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about all that later when we do get to the Pro Bowl, which will be this next weekend. But pulling up the first guys we're going to talk about for the Senior Bowl, where they do have pads on, and they do, of course, go at it.
Yep.
Got Jackson Dart and Will Howard up there as our two guys we're going to really emphasize this week. But Jalen Milroe will be there. Jalen Milroe is highly seen as the number 3 quarterback in the class.
Yep.
Huge arm, very electrifying type of player, but he has a lot of issues that he has to fix to be a consistent every game type of quarterback for anybody at the NFL level. So he's actually not going to be our gold star. We're going to call these guys that are on the board gold stars. These are the guys that will most likely improve their draft stock throughout this process.
Yeah.
We're also going to have other guys that are going to be our hidden gems, kind of like how, we play college football 25, and you can recruit.
For our dynasty players.
Exactly. You can recruit and you can get hidden gems or you can get busts.
Yep.
Well, we're going to talk about some of these guys as hidden gems. Obviously, the quarterback position, most people know the names of the quarterbacks that are actually, legit.
Right.
And so we're not going to have any hidden gems on the quarterback position, but our gold stars will be Will Howard and Jackson Dart. We'll get to them in a second. You also have Dylan Gabriel, the oldest quarterback in the draft class, I believe.
Pups, they call him.
Going to be 25.
That.
which is great though, because he has a ton of time under center, or actually in the shotgun mostly for his career. But just talking about him real quick, he's a guy that. Bo Nix was 24 last year.
About to bring it up.
Michael Penix, 24.
Yep.
And then also the other guy, Jaden Daniels, who's going to be playing, actually played yesterday. We are doing this video before that game starts, so we will not have seen that game. But the Washington Commanders, Jaden Daniels is an older quarterback. He's already 24.
Yep.
So you just look at the guys that are older. They come into the league more prepared.
Yep.
And they do well.
Yep.
So Dylan Gabriel could have that same thing. I think he's mostly a backup for the rest of his career because he just doesn't have the, zip on the ball. He's not super effective in the ways that you have to win at the NFL level.
Right.
But he is going to have veteran savvy.
Yeah.
Riley Leonard, very fun player.
He's a gamer.
Absolute gamer. Gamer. If you want to describe Riley Leonard, he is the Josh Allen of not being good enough to play football at the NFL level.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like
pretty much.
He's like the best, and I'm not saying that he's not capable of playing at the NFL level, but he has so many issues right now with his throwing, accuracy, and things like that, that I don't see him pushing his way into, a spot. He could be a journeyman, like where he goes to somewhere, Buffalo, be's a backup to a Josh Allen, learns from him, builds, and then maybe, comes in when Josh gets hurt or goes somewhere else. But at right now, I don't see him being that guy.
Nope.
But that's okay because he's still got an opportunity to show scouts and including myself that he is that guy, that he can make those accurate throws because he does have issues with that. Tyler Schaff, he's the old school 6'5" quarterback that stands back there and not
run a little when he needs to.
Yeah, not agile, but he can get away if he has to.
Yeah. Really good arm talent though.
Yeah,
made some crazy throws. Was it the Notre Dame game?
Yes.
Rolling to his left, throwing an absolute dot straight at and laser to the back of the end zone.
He could climb because he does have arm talent in that way. Him and another guy, Rourke.
Curtis Rourke.
Curtis Rourke,
from
both
Indiana.
Both have a similar build in that way and throw the same. They both stand back there and they're not mobile at all, but they're both good players. They just have a very limited ceiling, maybe a solid floor, but a limited ceiling. Yep. Also, Tyler Schaff is actually older than Dylan Gabriel, I believe. So that should tell you everything you need to know.
He's been around for sure. So.
Yeah, 7th year,
he is,
something like that.
Currently 25.
Yeah.
He was born in 99. So
yes, exactly.
25 a few months ago.
And then we have Seth Hennigan, who is Memphis' quarterback. He is all-time quarterback for Memphis, probably broke every record they have. But that doesn't necessarily translate to the NFL level. He is a coach's son, I believe in Texas. His dad was a Texas coach. So, very good, but not necessarily going to wow you as a talent. But he has the mental fortitude to be able to do a lot of things. Now,
he's also only 21.
Let's get to our guys that are our gold stars, guys that we expect to move up. Jackson Dart. I love Jackson Dart. And I think that Jackson Dart is really split.
Yep.
Because throughout the, draft community, Jackson Dart has issues. A lot of issues. And those issues come from a Lane Kiffin offense. Blame Lane. Because
Lane Kiffin's
pisses me off.
He's basically like if you give anybody the controller for college football and say run the offense however you want, it's probably going to look like Lane Kiffin's.
Lane Kiffin.
But you can't do that in real life.
Lane Kiffin is such an interesting offense because of the fact that everything he does is one read.
Yeah.
So one read, and then Jackson has no idea where to go after that.
Yeah.
So his progression through his reads is really bad. But you cannot tell me that, Jackson Dart has bad arm.
No.
His arm talent is insane. He can rip it on a rope.
And he can also run too.
He's a very good athlete. Very good athlete.
I mean, like I told you before the season, he was one of my favorites to win the Heisman. Yeah. Obviously, the first half of the year was fantastic. Second half, not as good. And then, of course, ending it pretty poorly with the Florida game and all those picks and whatnot. But and then the bowl game, he showed out again. So.
The cool thing about him is he can make basically every throw in different ways. Like he can layer balls. Mm-hmm. He can also, arch versus pace are very important at the high levels because knowing how to throw a ball in different situations matters. He is a guy that can throw every type of pass, which makes him very, very important at the next level.
Right.
He can make all the NFL type of throws. He just doesn't have the progression mentally. Well, good thing he's only 21. He just turned 21.
I mean, with what you said about Lane Kiffin's offense, do you think, do we know on his ability to read defenses and the progression? Like you said, if you're running Lane Kiffin's offense and it's not prepared for having multiple reads, then at some point he's just doing his best to make it work.
Yeah, so he reads half the field, basically, is how it works. So they read, like, I'm going to read this side of the field, and they're running cover 3, I throw this ball. If they're running cover 2, I throw this ball. Right? So after that, he has to improvise himself.
Right.
He did have a 77.5% adjusted completion rating. So that's not a problem. He had 2.8% turnover-worthy throws. So I'm guessing, and he does, after his first progression, doesn't work out every once in a while. He does better than I would think a normal person would.
Sure.
But like I said, he's very young, so he's a lot to, go up from here. The next guy is Will Howard, Ohio State. Ohio State, needed a guy that would do what Will Howard did.
Yeah.
Kyle McCord, he just was so nervous last year. I love Kyle McCord, so I am not bashing Kyle McCord. Shrine Bowl champion, he's a stud, okay? Yeah. But Kyle McCord is higher on my rankings than Will Howard currently, just so everybody knows. This is not a bashing of Kyle McCord. But Will Howard had the mental fortitude to be able to go and play for Ohio State and not make mistakes like Kyle McCord was, or not be nervous to throw the ball, because you just expect, you cannot, basically as a quarterback at Ohio State, you just have to be okay. You don't have to be good. Everybody else is so good around you.
Well, like we talked about, look at the roster they had.
Exactly.
We agreed they had by far, or not, maybe not by far, because Texas talent was really good, but the just talent levels
It's
off
insane.
The charts
Yes,
everywhere.
So, Will Howard actually was willing to rip the ball, and make plays. He's a good athlete. He's one of the best game managing style quarterbacks in this class, and those are important. I don't care what anybody thinks; those are important players, especially when you have so much talent like Ohio State had. Tom Brady was like the best game manager of all time because he knew what he had to do on every play.
Yeah,
he had to get the ball out quick. And that's something Will Howard did. 2.66 seconds time to throw. Beautiful. So I'm just really excited to see how these guys go up in draft boards because currently I expect Will Howard to be like at 10 on most boards, 8, 9, 10. And I have him
among QBs, correct?
Among QBs, yeah. And I have him at 6. Yep. So that tell you anything. Jackson Dart is way higher. Just so everybody knows, I'm very high on Jackson Dart.
Yeah, I'm not against either.
I'm betting on, because it's such a bad quarterback class, I'm betting on upside with some of these guys and then floor with others, if that makes sense.
I mean, you kind of have to at some point, outside of your first round guys.
Right.
At that point, you're looking for, like you said, the hidden gems of it.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what he does with his rushing because when he was at Kansas State last year, he had 24 less rushes than this year, about 125 more yards and 2 more touchdowns.
Yeah. Good athlete.
Really good rusher, and I think part of that's just Ryan Day's offense is built around a running quarterback.
He also
is fine.
He also had an 89.6 QBR, and QBR is the better rating. Don't look at quarterback rating as much because QBR takes into account everything that's going on in the game. And 89.6 is really good. It's actually the best in this class, but would have been 4th or 5th in last year's class. That just tells you how good that class was,
right?
Compared to this year, but super good. Both of these guys are going to climb up draft boards, and I'm really excited to see that. Next up, another couple of guys that we're going to talk about. But if you can just look at how many guys are going to this, I have to scout like 30 freaking running backs. This is the best running back class of all time. Literally the best running back class of all time. I have to find, gold stars and diamonds in this class, our gems in this class. Okay, no problem. Devin Neal, who is actually ranked higher than I would expect. He's down there on the bottom right. Yep. Let's go through all the other guys first, actually. Cam Skattebo, absolute stud. Yeah. Not much to say. He's done everything. If you watch Texas versus Arizona State, he threw the ball, he caught the ball, Indy ran the ball. Yeah. 290-something yards of total offense. Yeah. Freaking stud. Khalil Mullings from Michigan. Khalil Mullings is a guy that played linebacker when he got to Michigan, moved over to running back. Donovan Edwards was College Football 25's cover boy.
Well, one of the 3. Yeah.
Right. Took his job. Yeah. Because he's just so physically gifted.
Dominated it.
Yeah. And he doesn't really run around people. He just runs through them. Very linebacker-esque. You know what I mean? And that's a good thing. It's a good thing, man. Yeah. Bashol Tutin, another guy that's just a good athlete. Virginia Tech. This is like their whole offense right here, and very exciting guy to watch. So he'll be a guy that I'm excited to see how he does in tests because that will really help his draft stock more than anything. Yeah, because he could be between the 4th and 7th round. So if he tests well and does well at this camp, he'll climb. Then the next guy, of course, Trevor Etienne. I don't know how I feel about Trevor Etienne yet. I think he should have gone back to school. He's only he will be 21.1 when he starts the season next year. Mm-hmm. So I thought he should have gone back to school, but he does some good things. The problem is he's not very explosive. He only had 7 15-plus yard runs. That's not very good. Yeah. If anybody doesn't realize, like Ashton Jeanty had 36. RJ Harvey, who we're going to talk about, had 32.
I was going to say, so comparing Ashton Jeanty shouldn't count here.
But RJ
Harvey is a much better example.
I mean, Taj Brooks had 26.
Yeah, the
Texas Tech running back, exactly. Yeah. So, and he's not here this week. I believe he's at the Shrine also. And then Ollie Gordon, a guy that lost a ton of hype this year, which is really sad, but he will be there. I would love to see what he does. And we'll see how he performs because it'll really help his stock if he does well. Rashard Smith from SMU, not getting very much love. Not getting much love across the draft community.
I don't know why.
I don't either.
Insane athlete.
So we're going to see because he moved from wide receiver when he went to SMU, played running back, and it's his first year. So I want to see how he does at a camp like this with all this talent around him, if he can stand out in his own ways. Damian Martinez, great running back, really bad pass blocker, and that's what holds him down as a prospect. So we'll see how he does in those types of drills that they're going to ask him to do, because I know that scouts are going to want to see how well he can do. But he did have 4.46 yards after contact, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Jarquez Hunter from Auburn. Now, that guy is just an absolute stud.
I think he'll climb up draft boards.
He's an absolute stud. And he was almost one of the cover boys up here with the Gold Stars, because he is a tough dude. Yeah. 4.08 yards after contact, 135.8 elusive rating. Like, just good at football. 23 15-plus yard runs, 1,200 yards on the year. But he didn't have very many touchdowns. I thought that was really interesting. He only had 9 touchdowns, passing, receiving, and rushing. So those things can go up. But he was a really solid player.
Part of that was Auburn's inability to run an offense the first half of the year. They just refused to give him the ball. And then the second half, he went up the SEC. He ended up being second on total yards behind Dylan Sampson, who was obviously a stud all year.
Right.
But yeah, the second half of the year, he took off, which is why I think he'll rise up draft boards.
And I believe he was an all-conference player. I don't know if he was first team or second team, but he was really good. And I know that he was up there for both of those. Yep. He had 6.4 yards per attempt, which is really good. Devin Neal, the other guy on this list, Devin Neal was just really solid. But the thing is, he did play for Kansas, and Kansas had some hard times. Super tough runner, 105.5 yards per game, high motor. Yep. He is really good at making people miss tackles. Yeah. Like, that's what really comes down to. I don't know why they miss him, because he's just kind of like, it's a weird quickness, if that makes sense. Like, he just kind of, and you're just like, whoa, and everybody falls.
He's
like,
just very smooth.
Yeah,
he's
very
put in the time to learn his footwork. It's not like he's the like again Genty, where you could be in an elevator box with him and
miss.
We're gonna miss the tackle. With him, it's more in that once he gets an open field, it's not that he's gonna shift real quick. It's that he just does it so well. Yeah. He doesn't lose his foot. He doesn't lose speed out of it. He just takes off.
That's another thing. Acceleration from him is just really, really impactful.
Right.
When he's like decides to hit one cut and goes through the hole, you're like, damn.
Yeah.
And then his vision is just freaky good.
Well, I think that helps with his ability to break tackles, because defenders know if I miss, he's gone.
Right.
We're not going to catch him.
Now, last night, and we'll get off Devin Neal, we'll go to RJ Harvey, but last night I sent you a video watch this video of what RJ Harvey can do.
Yeah.
32 15-plus yard rushes, 131.4 yards per game. Jesus. 122.2 elusive rating, and I just literally put elusive AF. Like, the difference, I've never, like, 25 touchdowns this year. The creativity that he has and his explosiveness to it, like, implore it, is just freaky.
Right.
He has insane quickness. I put an asterisk next to it. Like, insanity. How he's not straight line speed fast,
right?
Like, but he can jump cut and be like gone from you immediately. So he's just, I literally just put different. The guy should be a top 8 running back on every board, and I've seen him in the like 11-12 range, and I'm like, just wait, because what he does this week is just going to be freaking awesome.
He averaged 6.8 yards a carry, which is insane.
32 15-plus yards. Like, talk about explosiveness. We talk about all the time in the NFL who can create. Who can create for themselves. This is a guy that can create for himself. Sure, you can get mad at him for not running inside the tackles sometimes when he has it. Right? Fine. But the creativeness as a number 2 running back on a team with a big back to take, those inside runs and like do that type of stuff. Put him in there. Jahmyr Gibbs doesn't run inside the tackles very often.
Similar to the Lions or even kind of the Jaguars with Tank Bigsby.
Right. He doesn't run inside the tackle box that often.
Right.
He's off tackle, and that's kind of how they play. He might cut back into it, but so will RJ Harvey. So if your biggest criticism of him is like, I want to see him run inside he's 5'7". And like weighs nothing. So no, let the man run how he runs. Let the man run how he runs. He's a freak.
He also had the longest rush in the Big 12 this year.
Yes,
80 yards.
Stud, absolute stud. Going to the wide receiver position, there's some good wide receivers. This is a much lower wide receiver class overall, but there's a lot of good wide receivers that are actually going to the Senior Bowl that I'm excited to see, because there's a lot of question marks on these receivers. Xavier Restrepo, no question marks. He's a slot receiver. Think Lad McConkey-esque type of player, not that good, but very much that way.
Yeah.
Makes people miss because of his quickness.
Yep.
Runs really good routes, catches the ball consistently, and that's why he's on this list. But and then the next, and he might be a guy that's even higher on most people's list because of that.
Yeah, I've heard him be pretty high.
Yeah, I mean he had an 87.1 man coverage grade, which is really really good. 93 yards per game. 72.6 completion percentage when thrown to. So he's a really good guy. He's a 2.8% drop rate. Like, that's a really solid stat. Jaden Higgins, he is your typical X receiver where, he's a taller guy, runs longer strided, deeper routes, things like that. I don't think that Iowa State necessarily used him how I was expecting. He is one of our gold stars. I think that he could climb up boards because of the fact that he's going to test really well, I think.
Yeah.
Do things like that will make him, jump in boards. 11 touchdowns. So very, very productive. He's a red zone threat type of guy. And I think that he could have a pretty solid with off season to help his stock go up for sure. And then next up, we have Tez Johnson, 5'10", 160 pounds.
Yep.
But does not matter because you cannot touch him sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, he is just so freaking athletic. And the size, of course, will matter at the next level. That's why he can't be a gold star. That's why he might have to fall down boards because of the fact that he's so small.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy watching him. I think that he could be a gadget type of player that makes you really excited at the next level. It's just, I'm having a hard time betting on him for his size, if that makes sense.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of your special teams specialists, and then also in some sets on the offense.
Right.
To start off.
Well, the question is he Tank Dell?
Yeah.
Like, can he be Tank Dell? And I just don't know. I just don't know if he can be Tank Dell.
Right.
Like, that's the problem. Like, I don't know that he's that physically gifted as a Tank Dell, but I think his film was better than Tank Dell's coming out of Houston versus coming out of Oregon this last year. So there's a lot more question marks, and I do want to see Tez Johnson test and see what he comes in at, because if he comes in at 160 pounds, it's really hard to get behind him.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Now that he's out of college, he's going to get on pro level nutrition and pro level conditioning, and we're going to see a lot of changes there, but hopefully without a loss of speed for him.
Yes. The next guy is Alec Iomaner, out of Stanford, a guy that he is a contested catch freak. And that's the big reason he's, going as high as he is. I've seen him ranked at 5th overall at the wide receiver position. So he's just one of those guys that plays the X position. We've got a lot of different body types up here. Yeah. I just talked about Tez Johnson, who's 160 pounds. Well, Alec is much bigger than that, probably 6'3".
He's 6'2".
Okay, 6'2". But 6'2", he has a freaky athletic build where he jumps up over everybody and makes one-handed catches and things like that. So definitely an exciting player, and I'm excited to see how he does in one-on-ones. Yeah. Because if he is able to impose his physicalness, I think he could do really, really well.
He's one of those guys that really passes the eye test if you watch him. Just in film this year. I think it was in the first game when they played TCU. Yeah. He just like mossed a dude, and I was like one-handed, and I was like, oh my goodness.
Freak. He's an absolute freak. Next guy, Jalen Royals, who is one of our gold stars. Jalen Royals only played 7 games this year, but he is an absolute dog with the ball in his hands. So how I look at him, and we talk about guys like him sometimes, but last year we had Malachi Corley, who was a guy that we talked about, me and Cam did, going in. He went to the Jets. Malachi was not like... Malachi moved from running back and didn't look like he was a receiver yet, but you loved the traits. Yeah. Well, Jalen Royals is a similar player, but he has been playing receiver, and he's very comfortable in like things where, his suddenness and his intelligence as a receiver show up. Right. He had 119.1 yards per game, and I love looking at this score, average depth of target versus yards per reception, because when you catch the ball and your depth of target is when you catch the ball, right? And then where your yards per reception is where you go down, basically. Right. He had a 5.9 yard difference between those two things. So basically, he made 6 yards every time he caught the ball, which is a freaky number.
If you're watching football, generally, catches made, they go down. You get tackled because usually you're not building that much separation.
We just talked about Alec Iomaner.
Yeah.
He's a -1. He goes backwards more often than he goes forward.
That's an issue.
That's weird, right?
It probably needs to be talked about too. Of hey, what are you doing when you get the ball, buddy?
Yes. But basically what I'm saying is Jalen Rose becomes a running back.
Right.
With the ball in his hands. He's fast, he has suddenness, and in the open field he's very hard to tackle because he has very good lower body strength. So he's a guy that I'm really excited about.
He's listed at 6 foot 195 too, so it's not like he's one of even the little guys.
No,
he's still a pretty big dude, but with that ability.
Exactly. Pat Bryant out of Illinois, he's just a really good football player, and he makes me excited to talk about. He's not a guy that I think is going to climb boards because of physicalness or athleticness, but he is a guy that is just consistent.
I was going to say, that's what the word I was going to use for him. Is he's not going to blow your socks off with the highlights or anything.
Right.
But every game, his name is getting mentioned because he's very consistent.
Good blocker. Things like that matter for a team.
Kyle McCord loved him, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Or no, sorry.
Oh, no, he's Syracuse.
Yeah, my bad.
But yeah, I would just say Pat Bryant.
Altmaier, that's his name.
Yeah, there you go.
Got him backwards.
Pat Bryant is a guy that I could see getting drafted in the fourth or in the fifth, sixth round, and just getting on the field because he does the right things.
Right.
Not so much. Maybe he goes in on special teams. He does not care. He just is a football player, and I love those kinds of players.
He's one of those guys that is like when you're telling your kids growing up, like do what coach says, get out there, get your playing time. He's one of those guys that does that. He just earns playing time.
Exactly. The next guy is going to be Ty Felton. 96 receptions, 1,124 yards, 9 touchdowns. One of the highest production wide receivers in this class. But there are a lot of question marks with him. He does have a good amount of drops. So we'll have to see. He's not very quarterback friendly, funny enough. For all the times he got the ball thrown to him, he's not quarterback friendly. And that's a really weird thing to me. So I'm not sure if he'll go up boards, but this is where you do it at the Senior Bowl. So we had to put him on the list. Next up are the TCU guys. Both very interesting, and I'm really excited about them. They're going to be higher on our board than most regular boards, I think. But Jack Besh, 62 receptions, 1,034 yards, 16.7 yards per reception, which is a really solid number. 9 touchdowns. He's like a, how do I put this? He was supposed to play tight end. And played wide receiver, if that makes sense. Like he's just a massive dude. You probably have the listing for him. How big is he? Just if you look it up real quick. But I know that he's at least 6'3", like 225 or something. He's a massive dude.
Almost listed at 6'2", 215, 216.
Okay, I think he's bigger than that. I think he's bigger than that.
More than like, and again with the pro conditioning he's about to get, I don't know that his height will change. Maybe he's 6'3" actually, but his weight will go up some too.
He's a guy I want to see his 40. But he was like the tweener between tight end and wide receiver, but he was really, really productive. And he might have the best hands in the class. Yep. He has a 1.6% drop rate, which is nothing, basically, which is perfect.
Out of every 100 passes, that means he drops at most 2 based on that average.
Yeah. So he's a really exciting player. And then his teammate is going to be one of our gold stars, Savion Williams. And I want you to pull up his size. I believe he's 6'3", 220, 225. He has been at TCU the whole time with Quentin Johnston, the whole thing, right?
He is listed 6'5", 225.
Okay, sorry, 6'5".
Big dude.
My bad.
Yeah.
He's an interesting guy because he had an 85.7 contested catch rate. He is a 6'5" gadget player. I want to read these stats. 60 receptions, 611 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Moderate, right?
Right.
51 carries, 322 yards, and 6 touchdowns.
Yep.
What? Are you kidding? What is this?
Yep.
So he can line up anywhere. He lines up at the H-back position. He lines up everywhere. And he makes explosive plays. His quickness, his red zone. He's a red zone threat at 6'5".
Yep.
And he has plus athleticism. And when I say plus athleticism, if I put a plus before something, it means he's like freakish, talent-wise for that thing.
Not just great.
Yeah.
He's top of the board.
Yes, exactly. Top 10% of NFL players plus athleticism. Yep. And so that's one thing with him. He's just so interesting. I don't know that he's going to climb boards, but I think a team is going to be like, I can do a lot with this guy. And it's very exciting. He's a very exciting player. So I think that someone is going to fall in love with him and he's going to go higher than expected. Yeah. I don't know if I love him because he is so wild. Like the idea of him is so wild, but at the same time, like, he could end up going to the right team and doing the right things, kind of like a Deebo Samuel-esque style, but he's 6'5".
Right.
Deebo is not 6'5".
No.
He's 5'11". So let's go over to the tight end position. And you know who it is. First guy is Harold Fannin Jr. Boston College. Oh, not Boston College.
No, Bowling Green.
Bowling Green.
You got it right.
Okay, I wrote
on
it
the
up there
board.
right.
You got it right.
Okay,
yeah.
perfect. Bowling Green. Harold Fannin was actually a weird watch. I expected him to be a freaking athlete.
Yeah.
And he is just a mid athlete.
I mean, A&M made him look like a freak athlete. Might be more of our defensive issues, but
Fair.
he did really, really good that game.
Yeah, he did really good in every game.
Yeah, I was like, all year, but especially that one. I was like, oh my gosh, is this guy a wide receiver? Just running all
Basically. He had 117 receptions, 1,555 yards, 10 touchdowns. That led the nation in both categories. He had a 2.5% drop rate, which is really good. And my favorite thing about him, he had a 78% completion percentage, which is, I mean, if you have a regular quarterback throwing the ball, they don't get over 70 normally, right? 70% is like baseline. So one player catching the ball 8% more is really, really good.
Yeah.
You know, possibly the best hands in the class overall for the tight end position. There are a lot of really good athletic tight ends that can catch the ball, though.
Yeah. Tyler Warren.
Yeah. Running back with the ball, red zone threat, athletic build instead of just like, you know, tight end build.
Right.
You know, big difference.
Be used all over the field.
You worry about his blocking at like the level of like inline tight end where he has to put his hand in the dirt next to the tackle, but his stand up like secondary tight end type of blocking is actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
He can block second level players, safeties, linebackers pretty well, but he does lack some speed, some nuance. And his height and weight could be an issue. So we'll talk about those things when we get to the actual tight end rankings. But I think he's a really solid player. And he is, you know, of the top three, Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, he's probably third. But he could go to the right team where they already have a tight end that can block. And he can be that gadget tight end.
Right.
That is a lot of fun. So we're not going to rule him out as like going to the right place and having the right situation.
Right, right.
The next guy is Elijah Arroyo. Oh, sorry. He's at the bottom. Let's wait. Jake Brennenstuhl from Clemson. He's he's just an okay tight end. But the tight end class is interesting. You either have a heavy blocking style or you have a receiving style. Jake Brennenstuhl was a receiver for the most part. He played slot or wide receiver 58% of the time. He only lined up in line 42%. So tells you a lot about where they wanted him.
Right.
His run blocking grade was low, but his receiving grade was solid. But he did have a 7.5% drop rate, a little too high for me.
Yeah.
He was solid. I thought he was going to go back to school. It would have made a lot of sense, in my opinion, for him to go back to school.
Yeah.
But he is in this class, so talking about him, he should. You know, all of these guys on the board actually are really solid tight ends, but they're just not that separated in like talent wise.
Yeah.
Mason Taylor, similar story. He played 56% in line though, so he can block better. He blocks better, 57.7 run block, which is actually good for tight end.
Yep.
Because if you compare it to linemen, obviously it's a big difference. But
right.
For tight end, 57.7 is not bad. He only had a 1.8% drop rate, so a little bit better, a little bit more comfortable with his hands, which is good, and he can block.
Yeah.
More comfortable with this guy, right?
I'm actually pretty high on Mason Taylor.
He's solid.
Again, eye testing it.
Yeah.
He's kind of always doing what he needs to do. Doesn't get a lot of flags, isn't out of place often.
Does well. He's good.
Yeah. He put that LSU off, or really benefited that LSU offense.
Yeah. Last year too, not just this year. With Jaden Daniels also.
Yeah.
Jackson Halls is your typical blocking tight end.
Right.
Does not do much other than that. They also don't throw the ball at Georgia Tech.
I was gonna say with Haynes King back there, which I believe he's returning for another year, anyways. Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of passing to be done.
No. And then Terrence Ferguson, kind of your do-it-all tight end, just good at everything, but not great at anything. That's kind of how I described him. He's a guy that I think could be a number 2 tight end on an offense that could just be kind of Cade Stover-ish. Maybe, not talent wise. Like they're not similar how they play, but the role could be similar.
Yeah.
And so he's a solid player, but he's not going to wow anybody.
Right.
So we're going to talk about the wow guys in a second. They're both over there on the right. The next guy though is a guy that I was super excited to talk about and watch film on, and then I was kind of like, damn it, you're not as good as I was hoping.
Gunnar Helm?
Yeah. I was like, I really hope this, I'm like, this guy passes the eye test. Every time I was like watching, a UT game, because I watched a lot of UT games, unfortunately. 80.
Me.
Yeah, it was a lot. UT beat A&M yesterday. Never mind.
That's true.
So Gunnar Helm, I was like, he's been really consistent. Every time they need someone to catch the ball, he's there.
Yeah.
And then I watched this film and I was like, damn it, he's just okay. Like, I wanted him to be better, and he's just okay. But one thing that he does possess is he's really good at catching the football.
Yeah.
Really good at catching the football. And 3.3% drop rate, 82.9% win targeted. So that's really good.
Yeah.
When Quinn threw him the ball, he caught it,
yeah.
which is great to see. 79.14% inline tight end. So this guy plays with his hand in the dirt a lot, and I do not think he can stand up that much,
right?
Because of his style. It just is what it is. I don't think he's athletic enough. And I was really hoping he was better, and it was just a little less than I was hoping for, if that makes sense.
He's just kind of stuck in that middle area.
Yeah,
good at both, but not good enough to where I want to use him for either one.
Right. I think he'll go higher than some of these other guys that I think are more, what's the way? Have a higher ceiling.
Yeah.
Is probably the best way to put it, because I think he isn't a solid floor because he can block and he plays in line.
You can use him. He's got utility for sure. I just don't know that he's, like you said, that guy that we're moving up of. Yeah, I really want him.
Exactly. The next guy, Elijah Arroyo. He is a guy that I was last guy to watch. Wasn't expecting much. And then I started watching him and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
This dude's a really good athlete. I was not expecting that, just didn't know enough about him. Really good athlete. 2.8% drop rate. Really good. 74.5% percentage thrown to. He's the guy on the right over there in the Miami. On the left. He will not be a gold star. We're going to call him a gem. He'll be a diamond gem. And hopefully, I think that he will go lower. Or I hope he climbs in this draft. But if he goes lower, he will be someone that will be a diamond in the rough kind of guy.
Yeah.
He played 50-50 basically, in line versus slot or wide. 61.4% blocking, a really solid number for him. Red zone threat. He is a nuanced route runner for the tight end position, which is something that is hard to see a lot of the times coming out of college. Mason Taylor's pretty nuanced route runner also, so I'm with you on that one. But he attacks linebackers.
Yeah.
Some of these guys aren't fast enough and weren't athletic enough, Gunnar Helm-esque, that I just talked about. Terrence Ferguson, Jackson Halls, none of those guys can attack safeties and make them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Elijah Arroyo can.
Yeah.
Middle of the field, Elijah Arroyo is really tough to deal with. I want you to pull up his size. I believe he is 6'5".
6'4", 245.
Yeah. So he's a little bit smaller, but he could put some mass on. That's something that I think is important. But he is a smooth criminal.
Yeah.
Is what I wrote down. And he is willing to block.
Yeah.
So that's always good to see. And I actually have him higher than some of the other players on our list.
He's an interesting one, too, because 2021 through 2023 combined, he had 11 catches.
Yeah.
And then last year, 35 catches, 590 yards, 7 touchdowns, with an average of 16.9 yards per catch.
Took him a second.
I mean, for perspective, too, Gunnar Helm, I think, was averaging 13.1 average, and then Harold Fannin was 13.3.
Yeah.
So when he gets the ball,
Gunnar Helm also
does good stuff with it.
Didn't play prior to this year, just like Elijah Arroyo.
Same thing.
Things like that.
Kind of came out of nowhere.
Terrence Ferguson played for a long time. Mason Taylor, Jake Brennan-Stahl, all those guys played. So these are the
that's why I'm so high on Mason Taylor. Because year after year, again, kind of like we talked about Pat Bryant, he's very consistent.
Mm-hmm.
He's utility consistent. But I mean, Elijah Arroyo, I was also high on, again, just watching Miami this year.
Yeah.
Just athletic dude at the tight end position.
Fair.
But also kind of unproven because, again, one good year and with Cam Ward and a really good or the receivers around him.
Yeah, but at the same time, I like what he does vertically. Athletically, he's very solid in that way.
Right.
And he pushes vertically really well.
Yeah.
So I think that is really important because you just don't see you're not seeing as many athletes in this class for this position.
Right.
That can threaten safeties and threaten the middle of the field like he can. So I think that's important. Plus, he can basically red zone threat at his size, things like that too. Yeah. He is a mismatch for most linebackers and safeties.
Outside of Harold Fannin, who's your favorite tight end on the board right now?
On that board?
Right.
Ranking wise, it's Elijah Arroyo.
It'd be Arroyo for you.
Yeah, he's my ranked I think 4th.
Okay.
So yeah, he's right behind the big three.
Yeah.
So, and then I think I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say Brandon Stools. Let's see, I have it right here. Elijah Royal, Mason Taylor, Jake Brindstol, Gunnar Helm, Terrence Ferguson. If I had to like put them in order, Jackson Halls is behind them.
Right.
So that's kind of where I would go if I had to like put these guys in order.
Yeah.
But a lot of them do similar things. So you are comparing apples to apples.
Right. That's the hard part with the tight end. It feels like earlier we talked about like RJ Harvey doesn't go inside the tackles often, bounces out versus other guys are bigger, can run through the middle. And with them, a lot of them, there's not as much.
Well, luckily, there's not as much variation between these guys. You can kind of compare them directly.
Yeah.
Gunnar Helm's a little harder. Jackson Halls is much harder.
Yeah, him being the big outlier because he's mainly blocking.
But everybody else on here basically does those same things.
Yeah.
Going to the tackle position, now we have some guys. There are absolute studs in this tackle class that no one was talking about preseason, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Because really, we thought this tackle class was just Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks, and that's it, right? After that, it was really hard. It was muddy. I don't even have Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks as our top 1 and 2. They're not in the 1 or the 2 spot. Neither of them. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Considering Kelvin Banks is pretty high up on a lot of people's mocks.
He is. He is 4th on our board because I think he's a guard. Funny enough.
Fair enough.
I don't think he's a tackle, and I think that he's going to have some issues at his size playing tackle. While these other guys that we're about to go through, I'll skip Armand because he's the Missouri player on the left over there. He plays
featured guys.
Yeah, he plays right tackle. And then the other guy is Josh Connerly on the both of the top 2 up there. Josh Connerly plays left tackle for Oregon. But talking about Gray Zabel. Now, Gray Zabel is probably a guard. Let's be very honest about it. He is a absolute freaking beast. Now, how I put this, Gray Zabel will just absolutely maul you in the run game.
6'6", 305, South Dakota guy.
North Dakota, right?
Well, I mean, he's from South Dakota. He went to North Dakota State.
North Dakota State, yeah. But yeah, he is a guy that I'm just like, that's the type of football player I want, not like a typical old school guard tackle type of player where they want to run the ball and you put a guy in there and North Dakota State runs the ball about 65% of the time, so it makes sense,
Sure.
But I mean, he will just go in there and just try to end your life, and I love it. I love it. He is so nasty. He's one of my true gems, but he's higher on some boards than I was expecting already because people are noticing how good he is, and I completely agree. He's so cool to watch. He on his first play of the year, he pancaked somebody. They played Colorado game. He absolutely shit on Colorado, and I loved it every second of it. First play of the game, he pancaked him. He's a super nasty player. 0 pressures versus Colorado. Power, wide base, makes contact, strong hands, and wants to bury you in the dirt. And I just can't. It's amazing. And he's got good technique because playing at a powerhouse FCS school, they do teach you really well, at that level.
Right.
I don't care if he's not a D1 player. Like North Dakota State is absolutely D1 at the level of coaching.
I was about to say most people regard North Dakota State as like right under that.
Right. No, I really like Gray Zabel from North Dakota State. Marcus Mbo, one of the two. He's also a freaking okay. He is hilarious to watch pass block.
No.
Because he's just so fluid as a pass blocker, so comfortable backpedaling and stuff. And he like jab steps you and stuff to throw you off, like you're uncomfortable, puts his hand. He does like a ton of like very nuanced things that you're like, wow, I didn't expect offensive tackles to be thinking about like these types of things. Like he's jabbing, so you throw your hands so he can grab your hands and throw you down.
Yeah.
And he's just really cool to watch. He's a 3-year starter. He's played both right tackle and guard, and I think he was probably going to fit more at guard, but he doesn't weigh enough, in my personal opinion, to play guard yet. So that could be a thing where they have to put weight on him.
Yeah, he's only 300 pounds. That's horrible.
Yeah, but he has played guard. He has 647 snaps at guard. Able to square second-level defenders. Athleticism is just off the charts with this guy. Very exciting about that. And that's what allows him to play the position so well in his back when he does like when he does kick slide.
Yeah.
He's able to, quick set and do things like that are make defensive ends uncomfortable trying to figure out what to do because you come in with a plan and he does something completely against your plan.
Yeah.
And he's really good against counters.
Yeah.
He's just a really, really fun player to watch.
He just takes advantage of the mental aspect of it.
You should watch his film. It's really fun to watch. Effort guy, individual handwork is really good, and we talk about that a lot. That's important, where you can throw both hands in different ways,
right?
Instead of trying to shoot both all the time,
right. Being able to mix it up.
Yeah. But his problem is sometimes he gives a short edge because he's not that big.
Again, 6'5", 300.
That's small.
Right.
That is small. Yes. So I think
I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah.
For the NFL, that is not that big.
Right. And then we'll go to the next one. Ariante Ursary from Minnesota. He's a guy that is really high on a lot of boards, man. And I need the Senior Bowl to figure out how I like him because I don't know. He has hard times with good pass rushers, speed rushers, because he's so physically gifted and big, but athleticism kind of lacks at times because of it. So I really want to see him at the Senior Bowl to see if he has that, ability to pass block. Because if he doesn't, he might play guard.
Yeah.
Because he is a mauler in the run game. Believe me. I mean, nasty run blocker, body lean, constant foot movement, just finisher, punch, knocks people off their feet type of thing.
He's 6'6", 330. So put into perspective, well, just comparing.
Yeah, he's huge.
Embo to him.
He's huge.
Yeah. That's more what we're talking about when we're talking about the size.
But he could move to guard if he can't pass block.
Yeah.
And so I just want to see what he can do at this level. But he is one of the highest ceilings possible. But he has a floor that is a little bit scarier than other players. So I just want to see if he has... he will need to sit a year, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Which is something that, he's Mel Kiper's 25th overall player.
Yeah.
I don't think your 25th overall player normally needs to sit a year.
Yeah. There is also in the media this whole idea now, especially with guys like Jaden Daniels, for instance, when we're talking about our draft guys. I want them to be an immediate impact, potentially rookie of the year, again, playing in the playoffs still. The vast majority of these guys could really benefit from a year or two.
Oh, absolutely.
Training and NFL conditioning.
Age matters.
NFL.
Age matters. Yeah, we need to stop acting like it's not.
Yeah. Well, Jaden Daniels is actually a great example, like you said. And then Bo Nix came in. Some people loved him. Some
Caleb Williams, very young guy. Yeah. Drake May, very young guy. Right. Both of them had actually the worst statistical years, except for Michael Penix and J.J. McCarthy, who didn't play.
I was going to say... neither of them can really count.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Spencer Rattler might have had a better statistical year than Drake May because he played so much.
Yeah.
For the injured Derek Carr.
Right.
But it doesn't change how I feel. Obviously, Spencer Rattler was a 5th round pick for a reason and stuff like that. Because the upside with Drake May is insane. Yeah. Just like Caleb Williams and Mr. Ben Johnson. So we'll see how that goes. Going on though, Chase Lunt, 6'8". Yeah. Yeah, he is a tackle. There is no guard about this guy.
6'8", 305.
He, though, is good in space. Length is good. Probably fits an outside zone. He's a good athletic mover for his size, and he's an NFL prototype at this size. How big?
6'8", 305 is what he's listed at.
6'8". That's what I thought. He's kind of skinny. For his size,
for being
6'8", he's kind of skinny.
Again, in NFL terms,
yes,
he's kind of skinny.
But what the problem with being skinny is he does not have the power, and so he doesn't have the anchor to stifle edge defenders if they want to bull rush and things like that. He will go backwards. So I do want to see how he does at this, because if he does well, it's going to be because he shows that he actually has the power to fight those types of players. Speed rushers, he does better with because he's got such a length. They're hard. It's hard to get around him.
Yeah,
the legs are that damn long, But he's not good in drive blocks, so down blocks and things like that, doubling. He's not that good because he's just so tall and he has to bend so much. He bends from the waist and not the knees and things like that that we talk about with athleticism.
Yep.
He misses some of that. So he's a guy that I want to see, but I think he could have some serious issues, and he lunges because of it. Yeah. And that's something that I kind of have a ton of reservations. I do have a type when it comes to offensive tackle, just so everybody knows. I do have a type. Athletic freak is what I like.
Right.
Does not matter your height.
That's fair. I find it interesting he had an 87 rating for run blocking and then a 73.8 on pass blocking.
Yeah.
From PFF.
Yeah.
Just pretty big difference.
Yeah, it is.
And again, makes sense with what we talked about.
UConn has an easy schedule, man.
Yeah.
What can I say? Wyatt Milam is a guy that is also ranked really high, Ariante Archery high, and I sent you pictures of him, and I was like, are we really talking about the same guy that all these people are talking about? Because he lunges more than anybody I know. He bends at the waist more than any player I have ever freaking seen. Like, why is he so high on boards? And we're gonna have to talk about it. He's nasty. He will finish blocks. He needs to play guard. That is all I can say. He has to play guard. He will not make it at tackle.
Yeah. 6'6", 317 though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Needs to put on a little bit of mass if you want to move him to guard.
He has, though, in the last 3 years, given up 0 sacks, which I found very impressive. But I was, when you see stats and they don't match the film, this is that guy.
Yeah.
I watched the film. I was like, I'm going to love this guy. 0 sacks, 86.5 run grade, 91.7 pass grade. Oh, this guy's going to be great. Watched him, and I was like, bro has no flexibility at all. He overextends. Hand placement is all over the place. He can't get to the second level. His foot quickness is bad, and he's 24 years old. Like, can we just? I had a hard time watching him and being like, yeah, that's a guy I want on my team.
Yeah.
And I don't right now. I do want to see how he does because he is high on people's boards and they're seeing something I'm not. But at the same time, we'll just need to go throughout the process and see if he gets better.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't do those things as consistently as he had, because I know, the first game for Abdul Carter was against him, and Abdul had a hard time figuring out how to be an edge rusher in that first game.
Yep.
But there were so many plays where, if I stood up, I wish I could demonstrate. But basically, his legs were straight, and his body was leaned all the way over. So he looked like this.
Yeah.
And it was not pretty. And I don't know how to – we just have to figure out what to do with him.
Out there stretching, doing toe touches.
Yeah, but he won that rep. The rep that I sent you, he won. And I'm like, okay, but that rep is not won very often.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Not looking like that, it's not.
No. Johnny Cornelius, a guy that plays with Josh Connerly at Oregon. He plays the right tackle position. He's a big guy, athletic mover, good in space, outside zone scheme type of player, capable of climbing to the second level. He has very bad bend. Bend is an issue, needs to get more flexible. It's something that happens with offensive tackles often is because they're so mass driven. They don't have any flexibility. Yep. Stands too tall at times, very susceptible to making him unbalanced. But yeah, he's a solid guy. Stalemates defenders too often he stops his feet, but there's a lot of upside with him. I think he's a very low floor, high ceiling type of player.
Sure.
But he couldn't break top 10 for us because of just not consistency, and then also just like athleticism at times. I'm like,
Yeah. He was also ranked 97th among tackles on PFF.
Right.
So the analytics don't agree with his play style either.
Yeah, exactly. And I completely agree. Emory Jones is just as bad, if not worse.
Yeah.
Emory Jones was a very, very tough watch from last year to this year because, he had a 5.6% quarterback pressure per pass snap, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Some of the lowest grades at the position, run of 61.3 is last, and 65.5 is last for the pass.
Yep.
And those are grades against the guys that are going to, play at the next level.
Yep.
Most hurries of the position at 26, but the things he's good at, he has independent hands, good in drive blocks and doubles.
Mm-hmm.
He's a nasty finisher, but footwork is bad. His balance is bad. And he has issues in space.
Yeah.
So if he's left on an island, he has issues. And if he has to climb to the second level, he has issues. And so he's a guy that will benefit from good 40, good athletic scores and stuff like that. But right now he has dropped. And truly, he's one of the biggest losers because he dropped out of the second round.
Yeah.
He probably was a second round projection last year. Mm-hmm. Not there anymore.
One thing that scares me a lot of times is guys who regress badly.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, for him, he was coming into this year pretty highly touted. People expected a big year from him. And then his PFF grade, for instance, drops 12 points.
Yeah, terrible.
Over a year after it jumped up 16 points the 2 years prior.
Yep.
That just is not a good progression that you want to see of someone constantly improving, or at least maintaining.
Trying to improve, right?
Right.
Yeah. Then the last guy we're going to talk about is Ozzy Trapilo. I have him pretty high on our board. I really like him. He is another just massive tower of a player.
6'8", 309.
Yeah, absolute tower.
Giant.
But he has more power than I was expecting for his size. Isn't as stretched out as, we prior talked about with other players.
Yep.
So he has that upside, athletic, capable of getting to the second level. Things that I was like, okay, like you're a good athlete. You can do a lot of things that athletes can do.
Yep.
Especially, length is awesome. And then he is very patient in pass pro, stays square on targets, and can get to the second level, like I said. So he's a solid player. He is going to benefit from these things, like the combine and the Senior Bowl. So we will see how he does against some of the bigger edge rushers. All right. Armin Membu, Missouri, okay, and Josh Connerly from Oregon. Both of these guys are ranked in our top 3 at the moment. And these aren't final, so just know that they're not final. But Armin Membu played right tackle for Missouri. He had a 2.2% quarterback pressure rate, 0 sacks on the year, 9 hits and hurries, mid-80s on both his run and pass grade, really solid.
Yep.
He's probably the most pro-ready offensive tackle right now. His biggest issue is he's 6'3" and not 6'5".
6'3", 314.
But he has like absolute tree trunks for arms.
Yeah.
Like they're freaking long.
But still, being out on the tackle and only 6'3", and you can't change height.
No, but at the same time, I will bet on this guy.
Yep.
Because
at
of
the
his
tackle position? Or do
you
think
at tackle.
At tackle?
His physical traits are absolutely worth betting
Sure.
on. And that's why he's so high. He is one of the best anchors, outside zone or pulling. He's freaking explosive.
Yeah.
Looks like a tight end at offensive tackle.
Yep.
Like when he moves, he has got like, and you know how like some people are just proportional to play a position correctly? That's what he is.
Yeah.
He's got that giant butt that sits down. He is very comfortable in his back pedal, huge anchor, like we're saying, but also like his drive blocking is really good, things like that.
Yeah.
Like I said, explosive. Every joint is flexible on this guy. We have so many problems with flexibility in this class. This guy has no flexibility problems.
Nope.
He can do the splits, I bet. I mean, he is that good. Lateral quickness is special because of that flexibility. You can move laterally.
Right.
And then the natural athleticism is why he's so high on our board. I just really like this guy. He is a gold star. If you haven't heard about him yet, he will be top 20, possibly top 10 when this is all said and done. And he is absolutely deserving of it. Guy that we have to, really talk about. Next guy is Josh Connerly, right next to him. Oregon, 2-year starter at left tackle, 1,816 snaps. He's gave up 1 sack this year, which is really sad because he was pretty perfect otherwise.
Yeah.
1.7% quarterback pressure rate, which is boom.
Really good.
Yeah, he is your left tackle pass blocking freak, if that makes sense. Like he is just that guy. Like he will not give up sacks. No sacks after week 2. 0 pressures against Penn State. That's pretty freaking good.
That's very good.
Was a high school running back. Talk about some athleticism there. Yeah. Fluid with bend is how I wrote his athleticism.
I'm more interested in that high school's running back room. Like,
dude, I'm telling
what
you.
do they have going on over there?
Some guys are just that athletic.
Now 6'4", 315 as your running back?
Yeah. And one thing about him that I really liked is how much better he got throughout the year. Because he is really young. Both of these guys are actually really young for the class.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them just exceeded expectations as games went on. Just got better throughout the year. So much better. He's got freakish speed on his first step. First step quickness is really, really solid. And just pass pro phenom. And that's what you want. Like, I don't care. Sometimes you can just be okay at run blocking. But if you're a 100% pass blocker, I don't care how good you are at run blocking. You can lean and get in the way because all you do is get in the way anyways.
Yep.
But if you can pass block, we're going to be happy. And this is what that guy can do. He's just a really good pass blocker. He's 3rd on our list currently. He could go up. He could go down. We will see. And then the last position for the offense, it'll be our last position for this video, is the interior offensive line. This is a down offensive line, interior offensive line class because of the fact that most of them are called tackles.
Right.
If that makes sense. Like most of them are tackles. Seth McLaughlin, Ohio State's captain, very solid. A guy that we'll talk about more, but he was injured for a lot of the year, so we don't have a ton of tape. And I just think he could be a prototypical center that isn't that special, but has a chance to start in the league, if that makes sense. Jonah Savayanea is the Arizona left tackle, and right tackle. He played both sides throughout his year. He will move down, I believe, to guard. I think it's already kind of decided that he is a guard.
Yeah.
Most people already have him as interior offensive line everywhere I look.
Yeah.
So we're just going to consider him that. He's really solid. He's a good mover and a guy that I think should be, looked at as one of the better guards in this class, possibly a top. If you just take guards, he's a top 2 guy, top 3 guy. So he's very interesting. We'll skip Charles Grant and Tate Rutledge, but we'll go to Clay Webb, another center that transferred from Georgia originally.
Yeah.
And he was a part of the Tate Rutledge class with Xavier Truss and Ernest Green, all those guys. Very solid. Jacksonville State was also solid, and he was one of the biggest reasons in that. So he's a good player. And then Jonah Monheim is a guy that I kind of think regressed a little bit, but he's also been a multiple-year starter, so he's a guy that has been looked at as someone that will be drafted and drafted well, so he's not a bad player. I just think he had a better year last year than this year.
Yeah. Again, regression scares me.
Of course.
Concerns me with that.
I completely agree. The next guy is Charles Grant. He is a FCS player, but he's a FCS All-American, 89.9 run grade, 87.3 pass grade, 10 total pressures, but he played tackle.
Yeah.
He's a skinny tackle, which means he would have to put some serious weight on, play interior offensive line, but I think that's his best spot. He's a nasty down blocker. He's got great arm length, and he's very comfortable in pass pro. I just think comfortably he should move into guard he would probably fit better there, if that makes sense. Just because of how he moves and things like that. He has to gain mass, though. He is a little small, but he has the opportunity to, be a top 3 round player if he does well at these camps. So right now he's a big unknown, so he might be a gem is what we would look at.
He's listed at 6'3", 291, so I think he's our first one that's been under 300.
Yeah, but he's only 6'3".
Right.
So he probably needs to be like 6'3", 325 to play guard.
Right.
Tate Rutledge from Georgia, 6'6", 310 at guard. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
He had 0 sacks. This is 2023 tape. He had 0 sacks, 3 hits, 2 hurries. Right guard alignment. Just a nasty, powerful player. Guy I like to bet on type of guy. You want to get behind this guy and play for this guy is one of those things, and that always excites me as a player. As you want to be a part of a guy like this journey and things like that. So he's a very fun player to watch and someone that I think could be the top guard in the class for a true guard, true interior offensive lineman from the college to pros type of player. But yeah. And that is our offense. So I'm going to stop sharing. We're going to do these in 2 parts. We're going to do the offense right now, and then we'll do the defense when we release that tomorrow. But we appreciate y'all hanging out with us. The guys that we just talked about are all going to be on the Senior Bowl. The Senior Bowl starts Tuesday through Thursday this week, and I believe the game is on Friday. So a lot of guys to watch and a lot of fun, but I hope that this was beneficial, that y'all can see all these players and talk and, think about who you're going to be watching throughout this week.
Oh, Senior Bowl's Saturday.
The game's on Saturday.
Yeah, the game's going to be on Saturday, so.
Okay, gotcha. So Friday must be some sort of measurable stuff, or interviews or something like that.
Right,
but
all that kind of stuff.
But yeah, we appreciate y'all hanging out with us, and look for the defensive video. It'll be out tomorrow. I love doing prospect stuff, obviously. Probably could talk for hours on this stuff, but we will not. So we appreciate y'all hanging out with us, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank y'all very much.